Hello student. So let's start the exocrine glands, and firstly we should have to start, that is the salivary glands. So the salivary gland, these are the three pairs of gland which secrete the secretion called the saliva. The name of these gland are the pair of parotid gland, the pair of submandibular gland and the sublingual gland. Apart from this, some numerous small gland they are present into that the cheeks and the lips. The gland secrete the salivary secretion which is help for the digestion, and it help for the chewing and the swallowing. It keeps oral cavity moist and it consists of many enzymes, so that is help for the digestion. So let's see the details of this gland and starts from the parotid gland. So this is the parotid gland. Here you can see. So para means around and otic means ear. So this gland is present around that the ear. So that is called the parotid gland. So it is the largest of the three pairs of the salivary gland, that is the parotid, submandibular and the sublingual, and it composed of entirely serous alveoli, and it is lobulated yellowish brown, and the weight of this gland is near about 25 grams. So that is the location. Then the parotid gland, it lies or it is located into that the pyramidal fossa posterior to that the ramus of the mandible, that is called the retromandibular fossa, or that is also called the parotid bed. Then the boundaries of the parotid gland. So anteriorly it is bounded by the posterior border of the ramus of the mandible. So here you can see. Then posteriorly by the mastoid process. So here that is the mastoid process is present, this one. Then superiorly by the external acoustic meatus. So here you can see that is the external acoustic meatus, and medially by the styloid process. So inner to it, that is the styloid process or the styloid process, that should be present. Capsule of the parotid gland. So parotid gland, it is enclosed into that the fibrous capsule, that is called the parotid capsule. So here you can see this one. Then this parotid capsule, it is formed by a tough investing layer of the deep cervical fascia, and this fascia splits in the region between the angle of mandible and the mastoid process to enclose that the gland. The superficial lamina, it is thick, strong and underlying and adherent to the gland, while the deep lamina, it is very much thin. The superficial lamina, it is attached to the gland, and the deep lamina, it is attached to that the styloid process. The external features of the parotid gland. So gland that resembles a three-sided pyramid-like structure. That is the apex, it is downwards and it shows the features. That is here the apex which is shows downward direction, this one. Then the four surfaces, that is the superior surface or the base. So this one. Then the superficial surface, so this one. Then anteromedial surface and the posteromedial surface. So this one anteromedial surface, and this is the posteromedial surface, this one. Then the three borders, that is this is the anterior border, then this is the posterior border, and inner to it, that is the medial border. Then the relations of the parotid gland. Then that is the apex. So this one, it projects downwards, overlapping the posterior belly of the digastric muscle and adjoining the part of the carotid triangle. Then the superior surface or the base. So this one. So it is concave and it is related with the external acoustic meatus and posterior aspect of the temporomandibular joint, this one. Then that is the superficial surface, means this one. So it is the largest of the four surface which is covered superficial fascia, that is the skin fascia, then the parotid fascia and the deep parotid lymph nodes. Then the anteromedial surface, so this one. So it is deeply grooved by the posterior border of the ramus of the mandible, and it is related with the masseter medial pterygoid muscle, the posterior border of the ramus of the mandible. Then the posteromedial surface, so this one. So it is molded into that the mastoid and the styloid process. So here that is the mastoid process is present, and medial to it that is the styloid process is present. Then the anterior border, so this one. So it separates the superficial surface from the anteromedial surface. Then the posterior border, this one, it separates the superficial surface from the posteromedial surface. And last one, that is the medial border. So the medial border that separate the anteromedial surface from the posteromedial surface. Then that is the Petit's faciovenous plane. So this one. So here you can see this one. So the parotid gland, it is divided into large superficial. So here you can see large superficial and the small deep parts, or that is called the lobe. So this is the large superficial lobe and that is the small deep lobe, and these lobes are connected by the isthmus of the glandular tissue, so that the gland it appears H shape in the coronal section. The branches of the facial nerve, it passes forwards throughout that the isthmus. So here from the isthmus, the branch of the facial nerve, it should be passes. The plane between the superficial and the deep lobe, in which that is the nerve veins lie, and has been designed by the Petit's as a faciovenous plane, and this plane helps the surgeon to remove the parotid tumor. So clinically, that this Petit's faciovenous plane, that is very much important for the surgical view. Next to it, the structure present within the parotid gland. So that is the three main structure, either in the part or in whole travels the gland and the branch within it. So these structure are, first, that is the facial nerve. So here you can see, and these are the branches of the facial nerve. Second one, that is the retromandibular vein. So here you can see, that is the retromandibular vein. So this one, and these are the tributaries of this vein. And the third one, that is the external carotid artery. So this one, here you can see, that is the external carotid artery, and then its branches, this one. Then parotid duct. Parotid duct, that is also called the Stenson duct. So here you can see. So it is 5 centimeter long, and it is emerges from the middle of the anterior border of the gland. So here you can see, that is the anterior border, this one, and this starts from the middle of the anterior border, and it is opens into that the vestibule of the mouth opposite the crown of the upper second molar tooth. So here in this diagram you can see this one, that is the second upper molar tooth. So this one, that the duct. So the course of the duct, that is the duct, it run forwards for a short distance between the bassinator and the oral mucosa. Then finally, that is the duct turns medially, and it is open into that the vestibule of the mouth opposite to the crown of the upper second molar teeth. Then the blood supply of the parotid gland. So the parotid gland, it is derived, or it is supplied by the external carotid. So here you can see, that is the external carotid and superficial temporal artery. So here you can see, this is the superficial temporal artery, and that is the external carotid artery. Then the venous drainage. Then the venous drainage of the parotid gland. So the venous drainage of the parotid gland, it should be occur into the external jugular vein and the internal jugular vein. Then the lymphatic drainage, that is the lymph drains firstly into that the parotid lymph nodes, and from there it is drained into that the upper deep cervical lymph nodes. Then the nerve supply of this gland. So here that is the nerve supply. So it is supplied by both sympathetic and the parasympathetic nerve. So the sympathetic nerve to the gland, that is the vasomotor and derived from the plexus around the middle meningeal artery, and the parasympathetic nerves are the secretomotor, and it forming the preganglionic fibers begins in the inferior salivary nucleus, passes through the glossopharyngeal nerve, its tympanic branch, the tympanic plexus and lesser petrosal nerve, and relay into that the otic ganglion. Then the sensory nerve to the gland from the auriculotemporal nerve. Then let's see the clinical or the applied anatomy related with that the parotid gland. So first clinical point, that is the infection of the parotid gland. So it is commonly infected by the mumps virus, which causes the inflammation and swelling of the gland. And the complication of these mumps, it should be occurs in the males, that is the orchitis, and second one, that is the pancreatitis. Then the second point related, that is the parotid swelling are very much painful due to the underlying nature of the parotid capsule, and any inflammation or the tension within the parotid gland will causes the severe pain, and this is caused by the stretching of the capsule and stimulation of the branches of the greater auricular nerve. Next clinical point, that is the mixed parotid tumor. So it is slow growing lobulated painless tumor of the large superficial part of the parotid gland, and it is termed as the pleomorphic adenoma. After many years of the slow benign growth of this tumor, it may undergo into that the malignant changes. Next clinical point, that is the parotid duct. So this one here you can see, that is the parotid duct, and this is the parotid gland. So the parotid duct and its ramification can be demonstrated radiologically by injecting a radio opaque dye through a fine needle or the cannula inserted into the mouth of the duct in the vestibule of the oral cavity, and this procedure, it is called the parotid sciallogram. Then next clinical point, that is occasionally calculi or the stone may be formed into that the parotid gland or into that the parotid duct, and this calculi lodge in the distal portion of the gland and may be removed by the splitting up the duct from its opening in the mouth. The next clinical point, that is during the surgical removal of the parotid gland or the parotidotomy, the facial nerve. So here you can see, that is the facial nerve. The facial nerve, it is preserved by removing the gland into that the two parts, the superficial and the deep separately. The plane of cleavage, it is defined by tracing the nerve from behind forwards. Then next to it, that is the parotid abscess. The parotid abscess, it is drained by the horizontal incision known as the Hilton method. So for this we should have to see, that is the another diagram. So here you can see, that is the Hilton method. So this one, that is the horizontal incision should be taken in this region to drain the pus from that the abscess. Then the parotid abscess, it may be caused by the spread of infection from the opening of parotid duct in the mouth cavity. So you know, that is the parotid duct that should be open into that the mouth cavity or the oral cavity. So throughout that the infection of the parotid gland, it should be causes throughout that the mouth infection. Next clinical point, that is the parotidotomy, means that is the removal of the parotid gland. After this surgery, at the time there may be regeneration of the secretomotor fibers of the auriculotemporal nerve. So here you can see that is the auricular temporal nerve which joins with the greater auricular nerve. So this one. And this causes the stimulation of the sweat gland and the hyperesthesia in the area of the distribution of this nerve and the skin supplied by this nerve. So this clinical condition, it is called the Frei's syndrome, and in this the patient can occur the ipsilateral redness, pain and the hotness into that the region, and whenever the patient is done externally, that is the shaving, so patient can occur cutaneous hyperesthesia. So these symptoms or syndrome, that is also called the auriculotemporal syndrome. So these are the clinical points related with the parotid gland.